Hey, buddy, watch this.
Hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Hearthstone is the game, and these are the 5 reasons you shouldn't play the new Heroic Brawl. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about just yet, check the description for a link, but essentially, Blizzard just announced that they're going to be adding a new edition of Tavern Brawl called the Heroic Tavern Brawl, and this is unlike any other Tavern Brawl we've seen. Essentially, this is sort of a standard format constructed arena format in that you have to try to win 12 games before you lose 3, but instead of using a random arena deck, you'll be using a constructed deck of your own choosing. So you put together your best possible deck, you lock that in, you head into the Heroic Tavern Brawl, and you try to win 12 games just like in Arena. Now, of course, winning constructed games can be very, very challenging, and to get to 12-3, you have to have an absolutely absurd win rate to get that far. So this is not a mode that's for the faint of heart. It's going to be a super competitive mode that rewards the very best kinds of Hearthstone players. And unfortunately, this mode actually costs either $10 or 1,000 gold to enter. So it's going to be a big commitment and a very high risk scenario as well. So a lot of people in the community, including myself, have sort of reacted poorly to this news and don't know what to make of Heroic Brawl. And if you're deciding yourself, is it worth 1,000 gold? Is it worth $10? Do I have a chance at success? Well, I'd like to address some of those questions in this video and essentially propose that it's probably not worth it for a vast majority of players to actually spend the gold or money to enter the Heroic Tavern Brawl whenever it is released. So far, it's just been announced that it will be soon. So presumably in the coming weeks, you'll have that opportunity, but I just don't think it's a very good idea. So let's go ahead and jump into the 5 reasons it's not such a good idea. Starting off with number 1, and that is that the Heroic Tavern Brawl will give you a really terrible return on your investment. Now, it costs, as I mentioned, 1,000 gold or $10 to enter, and you can find a chart at the blog announcement post from Blizzard here. I didn't put the chart in the video, I probably should have, but again, there will be a link in the descriptions. But essentially, there's a chart that breaks down the rewards for getting between 0 and 12 wins. And the community's done a lot of work so far and essentially decided that it takes about 6 wins to break even. Now, when we say break even, that means that you get about 1,000 gold worth of packs and dust and gold in return. So you have to go 6 wins for this to make sense, which is admittedly quite hard and probably a much harder task than even hitting 6 wins in Arena as well, just because of a variety of different reasons with who will be playing in Heroic Brawls and the inability for your deck to carry you. It has to be skill, essentially, because everybody's going to be playing good decks, whereas in Arena, some people just get bad draws and tend to lose extra games. So an even harder, more monumental task than getting 6 wins in Arena, which is already a really big challenge a lot of the time for a majority of players. And the other side of that is that at 0 wins, if you go in here and you just get on a bad streak, you spend $10 or 1,000 gold and you don't win a single game, the only thing you get back, this has been confirmed by Blizzard, is 1 pack. You just get 1 pack. So in other words, you spend $10 to get a single pack. A terrible investment. You know, that's 10 times more expensive than it should be in regards to gold, because it normally costs just 100 gold to buy a pack. So that 6 win rate is actually a 66% win rate, which in constructed play on the ladder is extremely good. You can hit Legend on something like a 55% win rate. In fact, most players do. They just have to play a lot of games. As you start to get over 60, and particularly over 65, you're talking about some of the very best players in the world at that level. So 66% win rate. Yeah, of course, we've all done it on certain decks, on certain days, and certain streaks. But to do that consistently or predictably means you're a very talented, skilled player who has a very good deck list that fits the meta really nicely, which doesn't always happen and makes this a very risky endeavor indeed. So a majority of the time, you're going to get a bad return on your investment. You're going to win 3 or 4 games. You're just going to get a handful of packs and no gold and no dust, and it's going to be a rough go. Now, of course, the 12-win reward for this particular Heroic Tavern Brawl is absolutely absurd. You get 50 packs, you get like a helping of dust and gold, and you get 3 golden legendaries as well. So yes, if you do manage to get 12 wins, if you're that good or that lucky, Good on you. You're going to get an amazing return on your investment. But I read some numbers that's going to be something like 0.2% of the population is actually going to get that 12 win return. So the other 99.8% of people aren't going to have such an amazing result. And on average are going to get a really terrible return on their investment. So it's just not worth it unless you know you're one of the best players in the world, and none of us are. So bad return on investment, not worth the gold. You're better spending it elsewhere. So let's go ahead and move on to the number two reason you shouldn't be playing a Heroic Tavern Brawl. And that's really that it just steals a Tavern Brawl slot. So this is going to be replacing a normal Tavern Brawl. It's going to fill in the whole week, so we're going to lose out on whatever random, fun, crazy Tavern Brawl Blizzard had planned instead. Now, often those are repeats, and they're not that new or not that cool or not that fun. But still, this one is going to be the opposite of fun. It will certainly be challenging and rewarding, and competition can be enjoyable, but it's not going to be fun. It's going to be stressful, right? Like, if you spend that 1,000 gold or $10, you're going to be scared that you're going to waste your investment. You're going to be try-harding as much as possible, trying to get all of those nice rewards. So it's going to be way less about fun, and it's going to be way more about stress and concern and worry. So the nice little diversion that is Tavern Brawl suddenly turns into a real ordeal for whichever week Heroic Tavern Brawl shows up. Also, you're going to lose out on the regular rewards you get from Tavern Brawl, so that free pack, for instance, and sometimes the Tavern Brawl quests that you have as well. So this makes that much harder, or at least delays that stuff for a week, which is unfortunate because a lot of people do rely on those rewards to help build their collection and grow a little bit faster as a new player, and that's really been a positive, one of the most positive things about Tavern Brawls in the first place. So even a week of losing out on that is it's a little sad. And then finally, kind of tying those two things together is that this is not going to be for casual players at all. I have a lot of people on my friends list who don't care about Arena, they don't care about the ladder, they literally just log in every week, play a few Tavern Brawls, see what it's about, see if it's fun, try to get the pack, just have 30 spare minutes and want to knock out a few Hearthstone games while they're on the toilet or while they're on the bus or whatever it might be. And Tavern Brawl meets that need for them, and it lets them play Hearthstone, it lets them have fun with the game. It's the perfect casual mode. And what's going to happen when Heroic Tavern Brawl hits is that people are going to log in, they're going to head to the Tavern Brawl, and they're like, wait a minute, I got to pay $10? This must be the most fun, amazing thing ever. I'm going to do this. This is so cool. Blizzard's awesome. Hearthstone's amazing. They're going to spend that $10. They're going to be tossed into the most awful experience ever because they're not going to be equipped to deal with that, and they're going to get a terrible reward and feel like they wasted $10. Totally, just completely wasted $10. And otherwise, if they don't think they have the $10 or the 1,000 gold to spend, they're just not going to get to play their Tavern Brawl that week. They're just not going to have anything to do. They'll have to head into casual mode or try to sneak in a few ranked games, and we'll steal that joy a little bit. So it's unfortunate that this is going to be replacing a Tavern Brawl slot. I wish Blizzard would add it as a sort of separate mode. And I guess they just want to test it out for a week or so to see if it works, to see if there's interest, to see if they can make money off of it. Primarily, it's probably the real testing reason, which is fine. All that's fine. Just do it on top of Tavern Brawl. Don't steal the slot. Because if this does become popular and they start to add it in as a regular Tavern Brawl rotation, a lot of casual players and a lot of people looking for fun are going to be missing out. So let's move on to the number 3 reason you shouldn't play the Heroic Tavern Brawl. And that's really that right now the meta is just absolutely terrible. So unlike Arena, unlike Tavern Brawl where the meta is sort of irrelevant, when you're talking about standard constructed format, it's all about the meta. And when you're trying so desperately to win 12 games or really even just to win 6 games, the fact that the meta is this oppressive right now, and particularly that one dominant class in Shaman, really even one dominant deck in mid-range Shaman, means that there's a really good chance you're going to play, up to 14 games? And all 14 of those games could be against Shaman. And there's a good chance you're going to be playing Shaman yourself. So, unlike the ranked ladder, where you're just trying to climb, a lot of people are willing to try different decks. They're trying to do quests. They're trying to, get 500 wins for the Golden Portrait. And there's some class and deck diversity, just because there's less pressure and less responsibility in it. Unlike that, with Heroic Tavern Brawl, everyone is going to be try-harding as intensely as possible, which means a vast majority of players are going to look to Shaman just because it's the best possible deck. So if you do Heroic Tavern Brawl, expect to play Shaman and expect to play a lot of Shamans. This is just not the right meta for that. On that note, there's also just not that many counters or options to play against Shaman. So really, you just kind of have to have a Shaman mirror match if you want to have any hope of being successful. And then finally, my sense, and this may be wrong and it may not be true for you, but it's that not that many people are actually enjoying the ladder right now. Ranking is still a lot of Shaman. One Night in Karazhan didn't really do that much to shake things up, so we're still sort of sitting in the same meta that we have been for a long time. Clearly there's some new cards here and there, but mostly the same kinds of classes and archetypes are still as dominant as they were 6 months ago. So I personally have lost a little bit of interest in the ladder. And I'm certainly not alone. So building a mode that basically takes the ladder and intensifies it 10 times over is not what a lot of people are looking for right now. So if this was some sort of format where you picked 3 decks and it was like a random selection, or you had to play an opponent 3 times in a row to try to win a best of 3, like that could be really fun. A way to reenact sort of high-level competitive play for more casual players. That would be a more fun and challenging and interesting execution of this idea. The way it is right now, where it's just a complete mirror of what you do on the ladder, which is queue up a single deck and face a random opponent. That's just magnifying what a lot of people aren't enjoying, and that seems risky and problematic to me as far as people liking Heroic Tavern Brawl. So that said, let's move on to number 4, and that's that the Heroic Tavern Brawl is really bad for budget players. I can see here that I didn't update the first bullet point on this slide. Looks like I just copied that over. Or in fact, the first 2 bullet points, so sorry I made a mistake there. But I did get the last one right, and that's the problematic feedback loop that happens here as far as budget players are concerned. So essentially here, what's going to happen with Heroic Tavern Brawl is that the rich get richer. In other words, if you have a lot of good cards, if you're able to build the best decks in the game, if you're able to put together a really nice mid-range Shaman deck, for instance, or maybe just some really powerful control decks, you're going to be more likely to win in Heroic Tavern Brawl, which means that you're going to be more likely to get good rewards and be able to build better decks. So this mode is best for players who have huge collections, tons of experience, and are very skilled. So not just rich in terms of gold and cards, but rich in terms of experience and rich in terms of skill. There's a feedback loop here where if you're good, you're going to get better. And if you're good, you're going to get rewarded better. But if you're bad, or if you're a beginner, or if you're a budget player, it's going to be much harder for you to compete in Heroic Tavern Brawl. So those 12-win rewards that are so crazy insane that could just fundamentally build a collection for someone with 50 packs and 3 golden legendaries, like that could just unbelievably alter someone's fortune in Hearthstone, taking you from a terrible collection to an instantly good one, because you could get 3 legendaries you need, you could craft 3 legendaries, you get a ton of dust, 50 packs will give you so much stuff to play with. There's not going to be any rags to riches stories, though, because if you're in that position, it's going to be almost impossible for you to win 12 games. Now, clearly, it'll happen to somebody if you're very, very skilled or you're able to put together one strong deck. It's possible. It's just less likely. So, on average, there's a really problematic feedback loop here. The other issue with budget players here, I think that was going to be the first bullet point or 2 that I clearly overlooked, is that there's a really high barrier to entry here. So some people just can't get together 1,000 gold, right? Like you've been spending it on packs every week. You've been buying your arena run every once in a while. And I don't know when Heroic Tavern Brawl is coming out, but probably in the next week or 2, based on sort of what it seemed like. And you may just not be able to save 1,000 gold by then. You may not have $10 laying around to spend on Heroic Tavern Brawl, so you may not get to do it at all. So it's just denying budget players an opportunity to play a game and a cool new feature that Blizzard has added. So that barrier for entry, the feedback loop, both make this a really terrible experience for anybody who's trying to be a free-to-play player or perhaps just a beginner without a huge collection. And then finally, the 5th reason I don't think you should be playing Heroic Tavern Brawl is that in the very near future, I think new cards are coming. In other words, BlizzCon is just around the corner. And BlizzCon last year, of course, and every year will be an announcement of a new expansion. And it's probably going to be an expansion, not an adventure based on the cycle that we've seen thus far. And that means that something like 120, 130, 150 new cards are on the way. And if you want to get those new cards, you might need to start saving your gold or your money right now in order to buy those packs. So spending all of your resources now on a Heroic Tavern Brawl, or even 5 Heroic Tavern Brawls, you'll be able to do it 5 times, means that a lot of your resources are going to be gone, when in the very, very near future, you might need those to build something more reliably and more consistent by buying the new packs, or buying a new adventure, if that is in fact what comes out. So spending your resources now is risky. I think you're going to get a much more consistent payoff if you just wait a few weeks, or maybe a month or two, and buy the new expansion, whatever the pre-order or packs, whatever it might be. That seems like it's going to be a more rewarding return on investment than would a Heroic Tavern Brawl. And of course, new expansions usually define the meta. In other words, every time we've seen a really big 130, 150 card expansion come out, so many of those cards, particularly a few top-end legendaries, will come in and shake up the meta and build new archetypes and make new classes prominent and important. So if you spend all your money now and you're not able to get those legendaries, get those important high-impact epics, if you're not able to buy packs to get dust, then you may not be able to get all those cards you need in the very near future. So it's even riskier to lose out on an expansion than it might be an adventure. And certainly the old cards that you're going to get as a reward for these Heroic Tavern Brawls, and it's been confirmed that those will be Whispers of the Old Gods packs. And the Golden Legendaries, I guess, can be from anything, perhaps. But those cards are probably, on average, going to be less good than the cards from the new expansion. So you got to balance it out, and I would weight myself a little more towards the new expansion cards. And finally, why announce a Heroic Tavern Brawl? It's going to come out in the next week or two that could be played on the current awful, boring, terrible meta that we've had for 6 months or whatever, when you could just wait a few weeks or a month or whenever the new expansion comes out and play this same mode with all the new cards. So wait till new cards come out, then launch Heroic Tavern Brawl. That first week after new cards come out, the meta is so up in the air that this would give players a great opportunity to build a cool deck of their own creation, go out into Heroic Tavern Brawl, intensify the ladder experience 10 times over, and see how your own custom baby, your own pre-built, just your own deck that you've shaped by hand performs against the same thing from other people. So instead of the same old mid-range shaman versus mid-range shaman for the last 6 months, maybe you create a new crazy aggro priest deck in the new expansion, and you take your aggro priest into Heroic Tavern Brawl and test it out. So depending on the timing of this, I really would hate to see this happen on the current meta with the current set of cards, when it would be so much more fun with the new cards that are coming out in the very near future. So those are the 5 reasons. Again, a bad return on investment, steals a Tavern Brawl slot, the meta is terrible, it's bad for budget players, and new cards are on the way soon. Now that said, I just explained 5 reasons you shouldn't play Heroic Brawl. Just to be clear, I will probably play at least a Heroic Brawl or 2. There's a couple reasons for that. I'm in a position financially where I can spend $10 and sort of do it for free, if you will, with low risk. If I don't get anything back, it's okay. I have $10 I can spend there. Not everybody's in that position. I also tend to have a lot of gold left over just because I play Hearthstone enough that I can sort of throw some gold in there and it's not a big deal. Also, I want to do it to create video content. Of course, I'd like to play Heroic Brawl for you guys here in a video, and you'd all like to watch that. So I'm sort of going to be the sacrificial lamb or the example, and I'll probably get 0 wins and fail super hard, and you guys will love it, and it'll be funny. So don't take me playing Heroic Brawl as sort of a hypocritical issue with this video. I'm saying for the average player, for the vast majority of the Hearthstone population, I don't think Heroic Brawl is a good idea. But for people like me who create content, or people who are really, really good at the game, much, much better than me, in fact, Heroic Brawl could make some sense. So if you're in that situation, sure, feel free to play Heroic Brawl. I will probably be doing the same. But in general, I think this is a poorly thought out and poorly designed execution of the Brawl format. And I think it's a pseudo attempt at creating a higher end competitive tournament format that a lot of people have been asking for a long time. I just don't think that this meets those needs that have been expressed for so long. and it feels like Blizzard's kind of just attempting to band-aid something for the community right now instead of build something really cool and unique. So I think there are a lot of problems with Heroic Brawl. I don't think you should do it. But I'm curious what you guys have to say and what you think about Heroic Brawl. Is it something you still want to try, regardless of my opinion? Is it something you think is really cool? And will you be playing Heroic Brawl? So feel free to leave a comment with those thoughts below. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, game on.